Hey, friends, I want to thank you for listening once again. And in the spirit of transparency, I want to tell you how I am making these podcasts. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's literally the easiest way that I found that I can make a podcast. It's free. And the app actually comes with tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. They distribute your podcast for you. Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts get your actual audio, and you don't have to do anything. That's beautiful. You can make money from it. There's no minimum listenership that you have to have in order to be able to create income from this podcast. It's literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So you just have to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey, friends. It's Erica here with the Art of Trans podcast. As always, I'm excited to introduce to you all a very, very special guest. We're going to dialogue a little bit. And you know how we always start. I'm just going to let this person introduce themselves and then we'll go from there.
What's going on, family? It's your boy Wine Wool. I'm your favorite trap therapist, and I'm here with my homie man, Dr. Jones. I'm coming to have a little conversation with y'all. What's going on, girl? Appreciate you for having me on the Art of Transition podcast. Finally, yeah,
we it's always a good time when we connect.
for sure.
I can't ever think of a time when we had a conversation or we were in the same space where I didn't grow.
Yeah, for sure. Vice versa, for sure.
So
It's definitely good for us. I think we were talking about different things. I think it's definitely good for us to start, having more conversations just about how our different worlds intersect and what that looks like. So I'm excited, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, definitely. I really want you to kind of talk about yourself, brag on yourself a little bit. Just, your brand is, when I first heard the name of your podcast and the name of your movement, I laughed to myself. I'm like, yes, this is
Yeah.
raw. This is real. So just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of how you transition into that brand.
No, for sure. So I kind of started my path about 7 years ago in 2013. And it began with me publishing my first book. It was called King Without a Crown. And my transition into that came from, I was a college athlete, thought I was gonna go to the NFL. That didn't happen. So I really just kind of, coming from a mentality of being a hustler. I come from the south side of Atlanta, but I never wanted to work a job. School, getting a degree was just a byproduct. It's just a result of me trying to go to the league. So understanding that I had gifts, I was just like, well, shit, what am I gonna do in my life? Asking God these questions, and it kind of just, resulted in me realizing that I'm a healer, I'm a helper, I'm somebody who's always, kind of been the middleman or the plug for my people in terms of their heart issues, the emotional shit, the relationship shit. So from there, I went back to school, got my master's, and while I was in grad school, I just started my platform. And the past 7 years, I kind of took a page out of my mentor, Gary V, his notebook about, just basically falling in love with the process,
Mm-hmm.
and really just, being as transparent as possible. And that allowed me to create my platform Soul Sessions. That's how me and you met.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely that was around, circa like 2013 to 2016. And we
Huntsville,
rocked it. Yeah,
Alabama.
yeah. Like, and it's crazy. And it's crazy. I say this on air. Like, Huntsville is probably, I think, one of the black communities like most slept on secrets, because it was crazy. And me and Erica we talk about it a lot. Just the different creatives that was around in that space during that time, and how we actually connected and actually created shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we actually had a group, of young black intellectual professionals who all came from different places, did different things, but
Yeah.
and then we just really, built it around this conversation around how we can create a world where we are welcome and that we love and that we can live, work, and play in. So over the years, that transitioned me into building my company, and it's sophisticated, and it's basically a social architecture firm. Our goal is to create safe spaces, and I just do that in different ways. Day to day, I counsel, I coach as a holistic counselor, and I have different projects, and I just use the creative space to give people what they need versus necessarily what they want. I kind of try to do it in a way in which they can you know digest it. So it's allowed me to just be creative and create dope shit like books and platforms and podcasts and the things we do, and talk about how do you get people what they need when they don't necessarily want it. You know what I'm saying? And by the time they want it, is life and death. you know so
I
so yeah,
applaud you for that. Like, I really applaud you for that, especially the work that you did in Huntsville as a creative. I was able to just see the way that you moved and to see the way that you built circles. And at
for
the
sure.
time, I self-published my own book in
hmm
Huntsville,
which I
Alabama.
still have, too. It's in my library. The poetry book. I think the 33, was it 33?
Yeah,
Yeah.
33 was after
Okay.
Huntsville. So my the book I published in Huntsville was called Jewels of Joy.
Yeah, Jewels of Joy. Nope, I got Jewels of Joy. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Oh man, been supporting for a long time, and I think that it's just important for us to continue to connect and to continue to recognize, the God and the brilliance that we have on the inside. Um, for us, for you, I really want to talk about too, just kind of how you've been able to not only connect people, but connect to yourself and
For
connect to
sure.
your inner self. Right now, a lot of people are having to transition from having a job to being laid off, or from having a job where they go into office or working from home. So some people are combating, cabin fever. So
hmm
I kind of want you to talk a little bit about, you know, the things that you recommend, and we can definitely bounce things off of each other, because I definitely
Yeah, for
have a
sure.
couple things that I think that are important for people who feel stuck, or
hmm
claustrophobic in any space. So
Facts.
Merriam-Webster defines cabin fever as extreme irritability and
Mm-hmm.
restlessness from living in isolation or a confined indoor area for a prolonged period of time.
Mm.
So, I really would like to hear your insight, any tips that you may have for the listeners on just combating cabin fever.
Well, I think with anything, especially coming from my place, being a counselor and dealing, working with people regularly on the thing, their narrative, like what that tape is telling them, what's going on in their heads. I think it's important to emphasize the perspective, and how we, not how we live life and how we do the things we do, but how we react to situations and how we see them. Like what could be life, life altering for me could be a walk in the park for you. So when I think of cabin fever and I look at like what's going on in our especially our society, here stateside and then globally, I feel like what you're seeing is, people who thought they were in control realizing they're not in control.
Mm-hmm.
And the the awakening, or a lot of what's happening, is people having to sit with themselves, and that's something that our society really has not is not taught us how to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not taught us to master ourselves, it's taught us to master a system. And when you're pushing to master a system, it's like shit, you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about everything around you to uplift all the, whether it's whatever title you have, if you're a banker, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, then if you're a husband or wife, then if you're a mother or son, all these titles you're looking to uphold, but you're rarely thinking about how to uphold yourself. If all of those things fall apart, then who's left?
Mm.
So I say all that to say, with cabin fever, I think it's a process of people having to embrace the breakdown. You have to be able to embrace the destruction, in a sense, because now your routine, now your safe spaces, now the things that you kind of clung to kind of avoid yourself, you really don't have. So I
No
think for,
distractions.
yeah, none at all. You know what I mean? Like you ain't got, and I mean, and not even necessarily no distractions, but it's just not the distractions that you're used to. That's the thing about it, is like we love the distractions. We just act like we don't. You know, in real life, like we complain about work, but now you seeing people wishing they could get up and go to a job, right?
Yes.
Wishing they could get up, and even when you talk about kids and avoidance, I think it's another thing. My clients, we talk about avoidance. People are having to be parents now.
Mm.
Like, that's a real thing, and it's not a shame, not to shame us, but it's just to point out a fact that we were taught that this system was built for what's best for our children, but we're seeing that necessarily is not what's best for the family unit, because how well do you really know your kid?
Mm.
And who's really raising your kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think this cabin fever, I think what I'll challenge, your listeners right now, anybody that's listening to this and is sitting down trying to figure out what their next steps are for whatever the next 30, 60, 90 days, for however long this thing is to really assess how you want to come up out of this. For everything that you wanted to do, I think me and you talk about it a lot. It's like, how do you want to design your reality? Like, if you look at your house right now, I promise you probably haven't been in every space or really like thought about what you want to do in every space in your house. Do you really live in your home?
Mm.
So it's really, I think it's dope for me, because I'm like, hey y'all, welcome to my life. I've been doing this for some years now, so like I wake up every
Gotcha.
day trying to figure it out. But I think it exposes just how out of control we are for ourselves. We master, like, I got a master's degree, I mastered the subject, but have I mastered my life myself yet?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I really want to emphasize something that you said when it comes to sitting with yourself.
yeah
Although some people may be working from home, you may be surrounded by family. I do think that it's important to just be able to sit with yourself and understand who you are,
mm-hmm.
understand the things that you actually enjoy. I
Mm-hmm.
think now's the time to definitely reflect on some of the times when you felt that you were at your best,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the times when you really got things accomplished, the
Yeah.
times when you really felt like you were fulfilled and
Yeah.
full of joy.
Facts.
And I would encourage people to write those times down,
Mm-hmm.
make a list,
Mm-hmm.
so you have some type of reference point.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause as
Facts.
we know in life, sometimes things actually get worse before they get better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being able to sit with yourself is very, very important. And some things, just learning, how you learn and how you operate. For people who work from home, sometimes that means that you actually work better in a structured environment. So you have to set up some type of office for yourself if you have
Yep.
not already.
Yep. Yep.
I
Gotta have
have
that
a
place in the
friend,
house. Yeah.
yeah, I have a friend, Honey. She sent me a picture and said, "Hey, this woman is so creative. She made an office in her closet."
For sure. And that's so smart. That's so smart. Because I think we fail to realize, like, your home is really just a state of mind.
Yeah.
Um, and even when I love how you use that definition piece with cabin fever, and I think part of the definition says something about living in isolation or in loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, that just, I mean, shit, you could be living in isolation. You can have cabin fever. You can be having cabin fever in your own mind. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what a lot of us don't think about. Like, yeah, you may be in the house and feel, locked up, but most of us feel that way every single day.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And it's something now that you have now that you don't have the distraction. Now it's just compounded on the fact that, shit, you already feeling what you feeling. This mental health conversation is just, I've been waiting on it, because it's like we're talking about these things we're going through, but now we forced to actually have to deal with them.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to be able to reach out and literally make
Mm-hmm.
a list of friends. If you don't have a
Fact.
list already, if you don't have a group chat, sometimes that's the people who are in individuals' group chats. They've already created a structure
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have, people to fall back on and connect
Yeah.
with. But I definitely encourage people to connect with people virtually, maybe that you may not know,
Mm-hmm.
via LinkedIn.
It's real it's real communities on the internet. It's like, I ain't gonna lie, like I was joking with somebody, like my clients probably know me better than my friends, because they're the people who rock with me. Those are the folks that, invest in me. I invest in them. The people that, follow me on social media, that actually comment,
Mm-hmm.
actually engage with me. Like, those people, I know they're part of my tribe. So I think, like you said, it's important for people to identify who they can call in those times when, your home, your actual physical home environment may be crazy and may be actually the cause of your issues. But if you have another home with people that you love, then, at least mentally you can get out your space, out your head, if that makes sense.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
for
Speaking
sure.
of space, the getting in and out of your head, some of the tips that people will give you is, hey, when you're having to work from home or when you need to pass the time, clean your space. I think that it's important to emphasize that we have to clean our
Mm,
mental space as
yeah,
well as our
facts,
physical space.
facts. And
So,
and just cause you can't get in the car and go somewhere, man, y'all go outside, man. Go hug a tree. Go sit in the grass. Like, y'all, folks, like, we started getting some money and forgot, like, we used to go outside. Like, you can go have a picnic with, like, just basic things. I think and it's something, especially being American, if you ever traveled, or if you have, family who's not from here, you understand that we take a lot of the simple things for granted. We take a lot of our liberties here for granted. So it's like, how well do you even know your neighborhood?
mm.
Like, like, for real. So, I think what this is forcing us to do as people is really get back to the human side of things,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is super dope for me, because now everybody's more mindful of what they do, how they move, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how they're living. And we all know it got to get worse before it gets better. But I think what you will see is, you'll see people come out of this a lot more aware, self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Self-aware, and self-awareness, I think, leads to, actual solutions, because you'll start to see people just do different things, live in a different way versus talking about it, which I love, because, hell, now that means more people coming to talk to me.
Exactly.
So
So
we
with
out here.
that being said, let the people know, we're going to wrap up this interview real quick, but
For
let the
sure.
people know how they can actually reach out to you to not only support your business, but to sharpen their mind in terms of having a holistic counselor to talk to and bounce things off of.
No, for sure. Like I said, my social media is at the trap therapist, underscore, at the trap therapist underscore on Instagram. My personal Instagram is at Winewell, at WAINWUL. I'll be getting my website up shortly. It's afuokosun.com. I got like 1,000 names because I'm African. And so, that's as far as the social stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
even on those platforms, if you actually want to book a session with me, you can go to bookthetraptherapist.as.me. And actually, I'll try to see, maybe I can shoot you a link. You can share it with your listeners. But yeah, it's real simple. I got my links in my bio, all that good stuff.
Okay.
The Trap Therapist podcast is also out there, and it's really just a lot of me really just venting, and I don't say necessarily walking. I'm walking through my process with my with my people, with my listeners. So a lot of it is just me kind of giving you insight into how I break down things, as well as help other people break down things. So that's me.
And you are just, whew, so
Man, I'm all right.
creative,
Chill out,
so
chill out, chill out,
inspiring,
chill out, chill out, chill out, chill
so motivating.
out. Man, look,
Thank
one
you.
day, I appreciate you, man. One day, we gonna I love how we had these conversations, but we really gonna look back at this and, know we were doing the work. We focus on the work. That's my mantra, people. Focus on the work.
Focus on the work.
There is always work to do. Always work to do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you doing it
So,
and being
nah, I appreciate
enthusiastic
you.
about it.
Look, you got to. We could be dead. Might as well be happy.
True, true.
Facts,
Well, I
facts.
appreciate you, the trap
Nah, for
therapist.
sure. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
All right now.